All right. I think I am live. Let me see here. Am I live? Hey guys, can you guys hear me okay? Part of, you guys can hear me? Very cool. Part of being quarantined is that over time you stop shaving. And so, as a result of that, good morning, Susan. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Edna, Sherry. So, I'm starting to look a little bit more shaggy. As this quarantine continues, I may grow like a long beard over time. How's everyone doing today? Hey, Vicky. Yes, you are. Yes, we can. I'm telemedicine is going to be so awesome because I can address patients and take care of them while under my blanket. While I can sit around under my Walking Dead blanket. As you can see, it's a Walking Dead blanket that I have here to keep me comfortable as I do health education for you guys. A beard is just another germ catcher. Oh, okay. Morning, Ken. Good morning, Rick. The I wanted to. Have you guys heard of the Korean uh, coronavirus test kits? The ones they do in Korea, where they check a drop of blood to check for your status with coronavirus. I want to clear up the two different testing techniques between, hey, sunshine, between what's available with the the technology that we use today to check for coronavirus, which is called PCR, polymerase chain reaction testing, where we stick a little, um, what do you call that? Little nose swab up your nose all the way to the back of your nose, swab the back of your nose throat, and we we send that out to check for the presence of the virus. We can also swab the back of your throat as well to check and swab for the presence of the virus. It's called PCR, and we can. Good morning, Tara, and hey, David. Good morning. And so we can get the tests pretty much within a day as far as the results, and we have some new technology now that can get test results probably within 15 minutes. I think it's a lab that we that has the tech 15-minute to me now um, for these nose swabs. And good morning, Juliana. Good morning, Jeannie. Um, so that test is different from testing that's done in many other countries, including Korea. Hey, good morning, David. Morning, Amy. I see a bunch of pretty cool Rotarians here from Rotary Club. Um, hey, morning, Carl. And so the Korean test kits for coronavirus is they get a finger stick, kind of like the when you check your blood sugar, right? AccuCheck. When they check your blood sugar, it's a one little stick to you get a drop of blood, and you put it on this little long thing that looks like a pregnancy test kit. You guys ever done pregnancy test kits before? Um, where you check if you're pregnant by is it a by putting a little bit of urine onto this little thing, and then if you get one thing that lights that that if you get one line is like negative, you're not pregnant. If you get two lines, and you're pregnant, type stuff. Some of you guys, find out by accident through that, like, oops, I'm pregnant. Good morning, Melissa and Melinda. Um, and so in the Korean test kits, pregnancy kit, you do a little finger stick. You get a drop of blood in this pregnancy kit looking thing, but it's not a pregnancy kit because it tests for the presence of antibodies to coronavirus, right? COVID-19 antibodies, and you got to put a to it, drop a reagent at, and it does this thing. And if you get one line, then you do not have the antibodies to coronavirus. If you get two lines that are kind of apart, then you do have antibodies. And they check for two different types of antibodies. And I want to explain to you how that's different from the nasal swab. In the nasal swab, they check for in the nasal swab, they check for the presence of the virus itself, right? The genetics, the gene, the PCR genetics of the virus itself. So you can actually see if there's virus in your nasal swab. That's why they swab the back of your nose or the back of your throat, right? So you can actually say, yes, there's virus, or no, there's no virus. So that's the nasal swab. The finger test, right, with the prick of blood, the finger test cannot tell you if there's actually virus that's there in your system. The finger test can only tell you if you have built antibodies to the virus, right? The finger test can tell you if you've built antibodies to the virus. And and there's two types of antibodies we look at. There's IgM, which looks at the acute phase of an infection, meaning, you acutely have the infection. IgM antibodies go up first during an acute infection. Good morning, Christy. And when your body has built an immunity and it has overcome and defeated the virus, you then have what's called IgM antibodies. IgM antibodies means you've built some type of immunity to the infection. So if I did the finger test for you and I saw that you had IgM antibodies, it meant that at some point in the past you were exposed to COVID-19. And if you are currently asymptomatic, if you currently have no symptoms and you feel perfect, then I can tell you that your immune system has already built an immunity to COVID-19. And if you've already built immunity, you've had it, you've attacked it, you survived it, and now you feel perfectly fine, maybe you're that person now that can go back to work. Maybe you're that person now that don't have to be stuck indoors all day because you've had the infection and you've built your immunity to that. That can only be checked, though, through that finger stick, right? To look for IgM. Am I making sense to you guys? Good morning, Zach. How are you? And am I making sense to you guys about the value of the fingerstick serology technology to look for immunity, to coronavirus, and how that's different, the fingerstick blood test, how that's different than the nose swab. looks for an active infection, right? The nose test will look for an active infection, whereas the fingerstick looks for immunity. Have you built an immune system response to it? Because the truth, good morning, and uh, the truth is, many of us may have already had coronavirus infections in January. We thought it was the flu. Many of us have coronavirus infection 2, 3 months ago, and we thought it was a cold. We thought it was some other viral infection because 2, 3 months ago we didn't have the ability to even check for coronavirus, right? We may have already had coronavirus and never even known about it. Um, Irene, your doctor did a throat swab. Yes, if you had a throat swab, it is not the immunity testing. It is looking for the actual virus. Okay? If you had a throat swab, you're looking for the actual presence of the virus. If you get the finger stick, you are looking for immunity. Now, the FDA is looking at a few different of the Korean technology, Fingerstick right now, to review it for FDA approval. I don't know when that's going to occur, and I don't know if it's even going to occur at all, right? But if it does get approved, if there are testing kits with the fingers test that does get approved, the value of that, again, guys, is to know if you've already had it. Because again, I am sure that many of us have already had coronavirus. We just didn't know it was coronavirus. We just thought it was something different, right? Some flu virus. We thought it was a bad flu. Um, but that is the value of the serology test. And what is the difference between IgM versus IgA? IgM is when you get the infection acutely. IgA is when you have already recovered from it and you've built immunity to it. Jeannie says, can you get it more than once? This virus is pretty stable, Jeannie. So we don't believe get it more than once. If you can get it more than once, it means that the virus has mutated to become a secondary different virus and you can get it again. Just kind of like the flu, right? You get the flu every year because the flu every year looks a little bit different than the flu before and things of that. Right? Taro says, isn't it more helpful to test for the active virus now versus the antibody? Yes, the blood test cannot tell you if you have the active virus right now. To find out if you have the active virus right now, you need the nasal swab, guys. You cannot get the blood test to tell you that. You need the nasal swab. The value of the finger stick is to find out if you've already recovered from it. So that's the value. And that's how it's different, okay? If you're in the hospital, if you're in the ER with a fever and with all these other symptoms, you want the nasal swab to see if you have the active virus. Okay, the blood test will not tell you that. The blood test will only tell you if you built an immune response. It won't tell you if you have the active virus infection. So you need the nose swab, guys, to know for sure if you have the active virus. Does that make sense? All right. Stacy, let me see what your question is. You heard from a friend that has a relative who recovered in New York and is saying that they have memory loss of the time they were sick. Could this be due to high fever or can be cognitive damage? I haven't seen a lot of cognitive damage like encephalopathy related to it. It doesn't mean it's not possible. You can have memory loss if this virus causes you to not have adequate oxygen to your brain. Remember that this virus causes a viral pneumonia, and a viral pneumonia causes your oxygen level to drop. And if you have an oxygen level that drops, first of all, you need to be in the hospital with oxygen on. Secondly, if it gets really severe, we need to put you in the ICU on a ventilator. So if you have a low oxygen level, you're not to your brain. And if you don't get up to your brain isn't going to function right. And that includes cognitive changes as associated with hypoxia. Does that make sense, Stacy? The lack of oxygen to the brain can cause cognitive changes with that. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Larry. Hey, Brett. Good morning. Hey, Brett. One of these days, you should give us an economic outlook on my Facebook Live. Brett Sifling is here, guys, and Brett Sifling goes on TV to talk about economic outlook from all this. Once we'll do a double, Brett. Um, Carry immunity, can you still carry the virus? If you develop the immunity, it means that your body has already beaten the virus. You should not carry the virus. As a matter of fact, this is what we do in the hospital, Terry. In the hospital, if you are infected with coronavirus, we don't necessarily discharge you until we know you had two nose swabs in a row, 2 days in a row, that shows you do not have the active virus. And then we send you home to be sure that you don't have the active virus. Um, so if you develop the immunity, you should not have the active virus with you at all. And we confirm that with two nasal swabs, 24 hours apart, to show that you don't have it, and then we send you home. Does that make sense, Terry? With that, and Lawton says no swab is active virus at that moment, and you can catch the virus. Yes, the having a negative test today, guys, does not mean you cannot catch it tomorrow if you are not careful with with hand washing, with wearing a mask, with staying at home. The one concern that I have with folks who are looking to get like the finger stick, right, is that you go and you get your finger stick and it's like, wow, I don't have immunity or I don't have the virus. I'm not sick now. I'm very concerned with people taking their guard down when they have a negative test. I'm very concerned with that. Although I think we should all probably at some point know if we've been exposed to it, and we should all at some point know who's been exposed to it, who's already been cured for it. Because if you've been cured for it, you're the person that can go back to work, right? If you've already got immunity and antibodies to it, you're the person that can go back to work to so that you don't have to get laid off, right? If you sit around at home for another week, your employee or your employer's cash flow is crashing. Your employer needs to know who can go back to work. And if you're the person who can get tested and you have already formed antibodies to it, IgG antibodies, you're that person that can go back and save your company by being a productive employee again and save your company and bring back revenue, right? But you don't want to go back to work if you're still at risk and if you know that you don't have the antibodies to protecting yourself with that. Hey, ladies, Jeffrey, Lupe, Natalie. Um, so that's the difference, guys, between the nasal swab and what you've been hearing about over the news with the Korean testing, with the finger testing. The difference is checking active viruses in your nose or in your throat versus antibodies that have been built up as a result of being exposed to that. Jerry Douglas says World Health Organization changed their position on everyone wearing a mask. Yes, we're slowly changing our position on everyone wearing a mask. Uh, I've always believed that the reason there are countries uh, in Southeast Asia that haven't had the curve that we have seen in Italy, which is straight up, haven't had the curve that we have seen in New York, which is straight up, right? Or in other countries where the curve goes straight up. Some of these Southeast countries like Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong, right, which is next right borders with China. These countries, their numbers don't go straight up. Their numbers are like this, and uh, and their numbers are like this is because I believe they are proactive. They test everybody, and thirdly, they all wear masks, right? They all wear masks, and they've already worn these masks even before coronavirus hits. It's just part of these Asian culture. I know in Vietnam, when we do our medical missions work in Vietnam, once or twice a year, and we go to Vietnam, everyone's already wearing a mask, guys, when they're on their motorbike. And so I believe because of that mask wearing, it does two things. One, you're not touching your face when you have a mask on. Like many of us will touch our face, right? I'm like this already. I'm like, how long's my beard? Check out my goatee. Or, I'm touching my face all day, and most of us touch our face without knowing about it, without being realizing it. But when you have a mask on, you're self-conscious not to touch your face because that's how the virus gets into your nose, our mouth, and our eyes through these touches, right? Um, but these countries that have this all mask policy have a lower rate of rise. They're not having spikes, and I believe it makes a difference with that. It says, can karaoke help? Yes, karaoke can. As long as you are karaokeing at home and 6 feet apart from the next singer, okay, from the next singer, and also the quality of your songs. Because if you're a bad singer and if you're singing really, it may scare away the coronavirus. Yes, definitely make. Um, Lawton is saying we need a vaccine. Yes, we do. We have several companies working on a vaccine. Um, we are we're definitely over a year away from a vaccine, at least a year and a half, maybe. These vaccines guys are, they're being fast tracked from the FDA. You guys realize that to get FDA approval for a vaccine or for a medication to be approved is usually a 10-year process, not a 1-year process. Um, but for the FDA to fast track this, we get it approved under 2 years, right? Between 1 and 2 years with that. Hey, Lisa, welcome. Welcome. How are you guys doing in Japan? How are your numbers looking like with that? Uh, Sarah says karaoke booths are closed in Japan. Yes, and they should be closed in Japan. If you want to karaoke at home. I do not recommend you go anywhere else besides singing in the restroom, the bathroom, or singing at home by yourself with that. Hi, Ron. He says you've got a friend who's been wearing an N95 mask for over. It's kind of scary. Most of many healthcare professionals are wearing their N95 masks longer than they should because of the lack of mask in many hospitals and medical groups and things of that sort. We know that on average the virus pretty much dies after about 3 days. There are exceptions. I've seen some exceptions where the virus lives 7 days, a month, whatever. But on average, most viruses kind of don't survive longer than 3 days. So, so if many of our medical providers, what they do is they rotate their masks every 3 days. And so they would let a mask sit out for 3 days. before they use it again. And so if you have several masks, you would use one for 3 days and you would date that mask, right? And you would use the next one for 3 days, and you wait for 3 days until you go back to the original mask to use, is what we've been doing with that. And hi, Elise. You guys are from the Netherlands. Welcome. Sarah Moore says number not good. Um, in, in now, and state of emergency in Tokyo. So Sarah, you're gonna be teaching. Hi, good morning, Tim. Welcome. Brett Siflin says there are some places in China where the cities go back to a lockdown, like a second wave. Um, Here's the concern with the second wave versus the first wave. The the second wave doesn't necessarily mean it's a second virus, or it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a virus that has mutated. The second wave simply means that we have not fully eradicated the first wave. We got a few people around with the virus, and when people start to unlock themselves, walk out without their masks on, and let their guards down, the same virus is attacking again because we have let our guard down. That's what the second wave can mean. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a different virus or a mutated virus. It just means that we've let our guard down, we unprotect ourselves, and the virus isn't fully gone. That's what that means, Brett. Hey, Kim, how are you? Welcome. Hi, Dana. Um, Jerry, yes, there are ways uh, to sterile a mask. I've heard some folks put their masks like in the oven to try to kill the virus, and I don't know what you do with the rubber part of the oven, if it melts or not. But I've heard different ways to to make your mask sterile. Um, Kim, yes, reinfections. Um, we have been through Tongue Out, through our nonprofit organization. We've been delivering some masks to seniors who do not have access to a mask. I think I did a blast to like over 2,000 patients and of mine the other day for those who need masks. We have volunteers who have been delivering masks to the local Orange County area, um, to a lot of our shut-in seniors who that we still have masks to donate and deliver. Hey, April, how are you? What state are you in, April? Welcome, Jessica. Um, what do you guys do at home right now for exercise? What do you guys do at home for exercise right now? Does anyone is anyone exercising at home? Type in the chat box. I want to see what people are doing because I used to go to the gym, right? 3, 4 days a week. I had a trainer, and now I'm not going to the gym. And so I believe that it's so important, guys, to keep up our physical exercise at home and to keep up ways to maintain a good immune system while we're at home. Um, Jerry, Jesse, what natural products are chicken feet maybe? Um, but the natural products we talked about last week that learning every day, the spin, uh, Vicky doing yoga burn. Can you burn, Vicky? Can you burn calories with yoga? Um, April's in Georgia, 10,000. Alicia's walking the dog at 5:30 every day at 11 a.m. Susan is doing a daily on time online yoga class. Rick Jordan's doing burpees. Nice. Uh, Zach is doing a Nike training app. Is that Nike training app for free, Zach? If it is, put the link on there. We can Debbie's doing a little yoga, walking around. Um, Terry, you have sewers that are making homemade masks to donate to hospitals and seniors. Um, so the thing with hospitals taking homemade masks is this: they need to find people that will approve taking on donated homemade mask. I know the frontline doctors and nurses would love a lot of any mask they can take, but donating a homemade mask to a hospital a little bit more tricky for liability reasons. That, but in a hospital that approve it, then by all means, any hospital. Uh, Melody is doing the elliptical or walking outside. Uh, welcome at that. I've been doing is we've been taking a walk every day for about 3 miles a day. It's certainly okay to go out and take a walk as long as you're walking not in a crowd, as long as you're not, as long as you're following the 6 feet rule and social distancing, you can decide and take a walk. And we've been doing that just to get out, and it's kind of weird, blue skies and breathing in clean air for once because everyone's at home. It's kind of Sherry's been doing home. Alicia's going as much as possible. Just doing classes on YouTube and exercising by selling homes with gloves with that. Larry says, "How do you see antibodies?" Is a simple finger prick, and it's a finger prick that is done where you can get results within 10 to 15 minutes. The kits are usually from Korea, and again, you get a drop of blood. It goes through this little chamber that's like a urine pregnancy chamber, and it tells you if you don't have antibodies or if you do have antibodies to coronavirus. I do not recommend the finger prick blood testing because it really doesn't tell you if you actually have the virus, guys. To tell you if you actually have the virus, it is the nasal swab, right? Uh, or it's the swab of the back of your throat. That tells you if you actually have the virus. The finger prick isn't going to tell you have the virus. It only tells you if you have antibodies to the virus. It's something that we can do at some point to see who actually have immunity to the virus, who's been exposed to the virus. I'll tell you if you actually have the active virus now. That is the difference between the swabs, the PCR testing, to look for the virus, and the tell you if you actually. Correct me, right? Helene is public, and she's, but in the different from what I just said. Oh, it's inaudible now. Okay, let's see. Check my mic. Bandwidth problem. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Let's see here. Can you hear me now? All right. Okay. How about now? Are you able to hear me now with that? All right. Hey, Joanne. Chat if you can hear me. Let me know in chat if you. Okay, you can hear me now? All right, good. So, so what I was saying is that the finger test to look for the antibodies cannot tell you if you actually have an infection right now because the finger test doesn't look for the virus. It only looks for the antibody, right? So the benefit of the finger test is really to see if you've been exposed to it in the past and to see if you are immune to it, right? If you have the IgG and you're immune to it, maybe you're that person that can go to work now and stuff like that, right? So that'll be the finger tell you if you currently have the infection now. The test to tell you would be the nasal swab, right, or the throat swab, to look for the actual the virus. Uh, Helen, your thought as well. So, uh-oh. Okay, yeah, spotty. That's right. Finger test is not FDA approved. Let me test is not FDA approved. Bandwidth. Okay, so just ended early since you can't hear me. Let me text. Just end it early today since you no, I think it's more bandwidth. All right. Take care, guys.